Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Transform podcast. I'm your host, Paul Van Meter. And today we have an interview with Adam Zimmer of Zimmer Design Manufacturing in Austin, Texas. They are an ITAR-registered AS9100 contract manufacturer machine shop. They have been a ProShop customer since before they opened their doors. To speak to some of Adam's wisdom, I believe. Adam is a really cool guy. I have a huge respect for him and the way he's building his business, growing at 70% per year for the last few years and on track to do that again in 2025. Although they've only been in business for, I think, a little over 3 to 4 years, the way that Adam has decided to build this business and basically build it with ProShop as the foundation of their operations and their business processes, how easy he felt like it was to get AS9100 certified, and just many other things that he talks about and reveals, really underscores, I think, the wisdom in starting and focusing on great systems. He says there's no way they could have grown that quickly without ProShop, and quite honestly, without being systems focused. I'm sure if he had a different system, a different ERP, but still had the same mentality about building really strong systems, he probably would still be doing just fine as well. But we are lucky that we're the ones that he has hitched his wagon to, and it's cool to see his growth and have him share that story with us all. So without further ado, let's go talk to Adam. Adam, good morning and welcome to the Manufacturing Transform podcast. Good to have you here.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, yes, it's an honor for me as well. And Happy New Year. It is, what is it, the 9th? So it's not quite the New Year, but it's the first time we've got to connect. So hope your 24 was good, and 25 sounds like it's already starting out strong.
Yeah, we're growing about 70%, I think, year over year. So,
whoa,
yeah,
70%. Okay, we need to talk about that.
We'll dig into that. Yeah,
we'll get into that. So let's start by why don't you introduce yourself and the company, and then we'll get into this 70% growth story.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Adam Zimmer. I own and operate Zimmer Design Manufacturing here in Austin, Texas. Mainly semiconductor, and we're growing into aerospace, and data center has been pretty big lately. It's been going around town. So
yeah,
it's kind of the bigger areas of the business. Started in my garage in 2020, kind of as a hobby project, making cigar stands and ashtrays. But
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And was that pre-COVID or post-COVID?
I guess that's right when COVID started. So I was working as a head programmer at a large shop, and picked up a manual lathe and mill and started tinkering with it. And that was one of the items to make, kind of like the heavy mug you were talking about.
Yeah. Yes. For those watching on video, I have both the 5-pound version of the heavy mug, which is actually realistic for me to use, and I have the 22-pound heavy mug on my shelf, which I can pick it up, but I can't really drink coffee from it. So without either busting my teeth or spilling coffee all over myself. So
right.
But I'm curious, was your decision to start tinkering on the side, was that a decision triggered because of COVID, or had you already had that in mind prior to April, March?
Think, a family member was selling some used manual equipment, out of the garage, out of Houston.
Oh, cool.
So I picked it up for a good deal. That's kind of what started everything. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
But and then shortly after, I guess 6 months later, a shop owner, my good buddy of mine, he was selling his business, selling his machines.
Okay.
And the shop was like 2 minutes from my house.
Okay.
So there's actually videos and pictures of me driving the forklift from my house to the shop and back and forth.
Down the street? The street?
Yeah.
Well, as long as the cops didn't pull you over, it was.
Yeah, it worked. But he offered a fair price for the machines, and then basically gave all the customers over. He went on to do his engineering type of work, and I kind of got into this knowing I was going to grow it. So I started with one employee, I guess, in 2021.
Okay.
Now we're up to, say, 11, I think, on payroll.
11. Wow.
Yep.
That's fast growth. Good for you. Well, I guess you got to have bodies when you're growing 70%, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
stressful at all. So
No, I'm sure.
yeah.
So what do you think, one of my questions is what makes your shop unique? Yeah, tell us that's an uncommon story to grow that quick. And,
Yeah, I guess we're unique in the fact that we kind of started, recently. So
mhm,
I kind of got to see other shops, which are typically 3 generations or 30 years old,
mhm,
been around for a while. But we were starting at a time when AI is coming out, a lot of paperless systems coming out. Um,
mhm.
the workforce is hard to find and expensive.
Yeah.
So he kind of came into all these problems already in front of me. So we're kind of able to handle those problems before we even got into business.
Mhm.
We're also a pretty young shop, so a lot of our programmers had no previous programming experience.
Oh,
Great
really?
machinists, great
Okay.
machinists are younger, kind of
Yeah.
tapped out at their current jobs.
Sure.
So yeah, we brought them in, taught them Mastercam, and kind of developing processes there.
Cool.
We're definitely a higher attitude over, you know, experience type of shop.
Yeah. I think that's a smart way to go all day long. So, um,
Yeah,
and so you were a machinist and programmer in sounds like a few different shops prior.
yeah, I've been doing it, I guess, since I was 14 or 15. So I was getting dropped off at my cousin's shop in Missouri. That's where I was born and raised, in Missouri.
Okay. Okay.
And sweeping floors, and been doing that ever since. So I knew I wanted to own a shop one day, just a little bit sooner than I thought. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and then let's see. Yeah, we do a
And
lot
you're
of diverse work. We're pretty diversified.
uh-huh.
Like I talked about, we're doing some gun manufacturing too. Being in
Right.
Texas,
Yep.
we're still open for job shop work, but we're trying to pursue aerospace, DoD, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds like the world is your oyster. Can you mind asking how old you actually are?
Yeah, I'm 31, I think. Yeah,
Okay. So you
31.
started your shop when you were like 27 or something like that?
Yeah, I think 28. I
28.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I started in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
incorporated in 2020, but I didn't really own a large CNC shop until
Right.
2021. So
Got it.
yeah, definitely a few years earlier than I thought.
Yeah. I'm curious with the gentleman that was selling the machines and handing over the customers, how did you finance that? Did you get loans? Did he carry back, to bill out some terms with him on the machines or people are always
Yeah, he was
interested in that.
open. He was open to owner financing, but I got some private financing on the side. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it's kind of, I don't really have a bank credit history yet, so a lot of it
Got it.
privately financed by someone. But
Got it. That's nice that they have someone that believes in you. And obviously
yeah,
it's working well.
had lots of support from the wife and the families, and
Right.
everybody's been great. Even
That's
local
awesome.
shop owners, very helpful.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah. I just love this community, right? It's so supportive. It's so collaborative.
Yeah, I've been thinking on that. I feel like everybody says it's a small town that they work in
Mhm.
with manufacturing,
Yeah.
but I know Austin is. I don't know about other larger cities, but it is truly everybody knows everybody.
Hmm.
Could be a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah,
Sure.
lots of support. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty universal across the
Mhm.
country and the industry, even up in Canada and other places where we have clients too. So, um, all right. So one of the unique things about you guys, I will say, is that you decided you needed an ERP basically from day one. So
Yeah.
can you talk about your decision there and why you thought that was worth the investment? And it's not that common. Most people wait a few years. So
Yes, I was definitely in a unique situation. We had the shop purchase planned out a couple months ahead of time.
mhm,
So I actually came on to work for the shop I bought for like a month or two, try to get familiar with the one employee, the customers, things like that.
mhm,
So right then and there, the deal was pretty much final. So I knew I needed, me myself, I'm a pretty organized guy. So I needed some type of software, no matter what it was, to help me out. So I did a little bit of research. I've worked with a few other ERPs in my previous employers.
mhm.
I already knew that was, a mess. Uh,
The other
trying
ERPs
to,
were a mess.
yeah. So nobody, I guess the shop floor employees never really got on the ERP too much.
Right. That's common.
But honestly, the biggest selling point was just the paperless aspect.
Right.
Being very naive 3 years ago, just the paperless thing alone was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And really the pricing you can get into ProShop at a good price, and it easily scales with you.
Right.
So you have every tool available to you right off the bat, but it's a good entry price. And then, you can go as big as you want with it.
Right.
And I was wanting to get an ERP before, I had to enter in all the customer contacts and part numbers and things like that. So,
yeah.
I guess, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it just says, I think there's a ton of wisdom in that. And right before we hit record, we were talking about, we had a gentleman just announce last night on LinkedIn, just completely out of the blue. He said, "Hey, Paul Van Meter, we took an important step today. I'm excited to announce our transition to ProShop." That's Troy from TK Machining Specialties. And he, in the comments below, he said, "It's interesting to observe that when people are drawn to flashy new machines or sweet cutting tools, but after starting and running a business for 13 years, it's truly these foundational elements like an excellent ERP that are make or break for a business." I think what you described, wanting, being an organized person, realizing that you want something right from the get-go is basically what, Troy is talking about now. But for many companies, that's not something they decide is a priority or possible or whatever, in the first many years of running their shops. So yeah, I think kudos to you for making that decision, and I'm glad it's one that you were happy you made. So
yeah, definitely, I got it knowing, I was wanting to scale, getting larger. So I think I've talked to several, small shops, 1-2 man shops that are back and forth on the ERP system,
right?
Which you may not need one if you're 1 or 2 people, but it helps a lot just for outside processing, quoting, keeping everything organized.
Sure.
I really, really start to see the benefits when you're like 3 or 4 employees personally. That way I think that's when we hired a part-time office manager, and she was actually in Houston at the time, and we're in Austin. So
right.
She was 3 hours away and doing billing and making work orders and things like that.
Right.
So that's a huge benefit right there. All of our office staff is, half remote, half in shop. So that's a good hiring benefit as well.
Yeah. Something that they like that attracts them to work for you rather than somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, every employee we add, we see a new tool we can use, and it's just, we keep finding surprises in ProShop that's like, that's a great tool. So we can just keep growing and learning with ProShop.
Right. So did, besides just staying organized, as you talked about, from the beginning, does that dovetail in with this idea of like building a foundation, right? The analogy that I've heard people use is, if you're going to build a house, you don't just build it straight on the dirt. You put a foundation in place first, and then you start building on top of that. Because if you, don't have a foundation, your house isn't going to be stable. And then if you decide you need a foundation later, it's really hard to dig out underneath it and start putting it in place, and so
it is it's almost like a back and forth thing, I've noticed.
Say more. Yeah.
I've been working with a business coach for about a year now, going through Action Coach.
Okay.
And it's not manufacturing specific, but they really just get you in the mindset on how to run a business. I'm a technician, as they would call it, trying to be a business owner. So it's definitely a different mindset.
Okay.
But yeah, as we got our foundation, I bought ProShop, 1 or 2 employees. That's great. We kept hiring, and then the foundation kind of starts cracking, kind of see your weaknesses and your processes. So it's constantly just revisiting the basics and seeing where the cracks are. Every hire, really. So
interesting. Can you elaborate on maybe an example of where something was working well and then a crack formed when you hired someone new?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, first thing comes to mind would be shipping and receiving. We kind of have our shipping and receiving guy make packing slips, right?
Yep.
So there'll be a differentiation between outside processing packing slip and direct to customer packing slip.
Mhm.
And everybody here is like, that's kind of second nature. But you start hiring people in and you realize it's like, oh, we need to, like, nobody knows what outside process is sometimes. So you really need to document the training on all this and double check and this and that. So,
Right.
Getting into
building.
the business. I'm sorry.
Oh, just training them in the foundation and the basic principles of how your business runs, and
Right.
the difference between those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think getting into the business, being a programmer and machinist, I wanted to streamline, the programming and manufacturing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So try to automate Mastercam, make setup sheets, all that seamless. But now after 3 years, I'm realizing I need to try to do that with every single aspect of the company, which is a lot to chew off for sure. Now it's down to accounting and quoting and shipping and trying to automate and document every process in a machine shop. So that's it's a big feat.
Yeah. Is it that automation of all those processes that allows you to scale at 70% a year?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We do. Yeah. A lot of training. We got a ProShop culture almost going almost to a fault because everybody is always on ProShop, tweaking processes, finding new ways to do things, shortcuts. Everybody's always talking to each other, sharing info. And then, sometimes I'm like, all right, guys, that's good enough. Let's keep the spindles turning. Let's get the parts out the door. It's great. It's a great culture, but
Yeah.
still finding that balance of manpower versus trying to stay organized and trying to do big shop things with a small team. So,
Right. What are some of those big shop things you have aspirations to do or are doing?
Yeah, we just got a big rack full of all our fixtures. All our fixtures are laser engraved and recorded in ProShop and then linked to that part number. So that's
Nice.
That's a pain point from other shops I've worked at is, here's a print, and you kind of use the outline of the part on the print to find the fixture.
Right.
Like a huge room of 1,000 fixtures. So now I just used it the other day, and we're using this part number, use fixture 24. It's this location, and it was just, it took 60 seconds instead of an hour to find that fixture. That's kind of why I got ProShop early, is to start introducing those things early. Because I keep hearing it's easier to do it on a small scale and grow it than it is to train 50 people on how to do that.
Yeah. Plus, you've had all those years of 50 people trying to search for an hour for a fixture and all the immeasurable waste of that.
It's crazy.
And what happens when you actually can't find the fixture and you end up making a new one?
Yeah. And then
as soon as you're done making the new one, you find it. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Have you, just as an aside, have you run across the feature yet where if you haven't used a fixture in like 6 months or a year, it sends you a system message and it says, here's a list of fixtures you might consider archiving?
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't think we've used it for 6 months yet, but no, I've seen it. There's like a B or C. I think the recommendation on ProShop was, all your C fixtures keep moving up, kind of out of reach.
Right.
So pretty much everything on the top shelf after a year or so is, do you want to keep this or not?
Yeah. Yeah. And then in our shop, and I can't remember, we built that feature years ago because we had the issue with, we had a limited amount of actual shelf space, in the main fixture area, and fixtures keep coming in every day. Right. And so we eventually had to move them to more an archive area in a different part of the building. And it's like, how do you even know if you've used a fixture in months without, manually looking through all the work orders? And we're like, oh, it'd be easy to make a query or make a system that says, hey, you haven't used this in 6 months. Do you still? And some of the actually the little side benefit of that is, before we would archive it, or certainly before we would ever throw it out, we would call that customer and say, hey, we have this fixture you haven't used in a while and we need to make space. And sometimes they're like, oh, thanks for calling. I need to order some of this. And you're like, great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Happy to bring it back into the active fixture area. So,
and we started, speaking of queries, we started digging into that more. Kind of for me on the financial side, so we can do monthly reports on how much we shipped that month or the sales that month.
Yep.
And digging into the background of ProShop, it's a lot more customizable than I realize.
Yeah.
Even on the training side, I just found that the checkbox for, does this attribute require training or not?
Yeah.
So we're starting to do all the trainings, and you can't click that button unless you're trained on it. Approved for it.
Training access control.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a cool
just
feature.
Unlocked a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. But yeah, that's great. We're trying to, long-term build a curriculum almost for through the trainings. So kind of have our internal, school on how to machine using the trainings. So
got it. And are those like machining fundamentals or things specific to Zimmer?
I think it would be specific to our equipment, I would think. But yeah, mainly on the machining side, just
got it.
How to trim in a vise, how to set up tools, all the way to our pallet pool, how to find center rotation and make pallet changes and things like that. So
that's a cool idea. Yeah.
And if you sit down and think of every process in a machine shop, it's
there's thousands.
Infinite. Yeah.
Yeah, infinite. You're right. More than thousands. Yeah, and they're always changing with new equipment and new things. Yeah. You made a funny comment before we hit record. You're like, running a machine shop is easy. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I get made fun of by how much I talk about ProShop. So I'm kind of, all my buddies are like, yeah, ProShop's great. It's kind of more or less my secret to success. That's why I started seeing a lot more people getting ProShop, and I'm kind of getting worried that my secret's out now.
Yeah. Why do you say running a machine shop is easy? Most people, and I say it's the hardest business in the world.
It is. I sarcastically said that, but it's, there's some truth to it. I guess two aspects of it is, one is everything is organized and documented. You can go back on the history of any part quickly. Actually, just this morning, we got a PO for 7 part numbers. 4 of those part numbers got uprevved. And what got uprevved is a cleaning process. They wanted a different cleaning process. So within 10 minutes, our office manager uprevved all the prints, didn't have to go on the shop floor and change anything, updated the estimate for outside processing and estimated that process in the work order, and sent a confirmation back, within 10 minutes. So we got uprevved the whole PO very quickly.
Wow.
That's just one example of all the, everything's linked together. So it just helps a ton. The other side would just be, might be jumping the gun, but getting AS 9100 certified. Basically, ProShop laid out everything we need to know and trained us on how to use it. It's almost felt like I cheated getting certified. It was incredibly easy, and really just a training course on how to run a shop correctly. I had very little, headaches or input and how to get that going. And then, so we've had it for 2 years now, I believe. So we just got our satellite. Just got recertified this year.
Surveillance audit.
Your surveillance audit,
yeah.
So I didn't even do anything that day. We had our office manager and quality manager handle it all. And, I think I posted that was the easiest day of the shop so far.
I do remember that LinkedIn post.
So there's a little guilt in there just getting certified after I've seen and heard so many people struggle with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I would also venture to guess that that's also easy for you. And even just the fact that you said that on your recertification audit, you didn't even do anything, your team handled it, that you must be maybe better at delegation than many shop owners.
I got to give credit where it's due. We got great employees here. They just take it and run with it, just kind of what I was looking for. And then, I think it's funny you bring that up, because I was just thinking about that this morning. I think I started a family the same time as a machine shop. So real quick, I wouldn't recommend that. But it's who needs sleep, right?
Yeah, you got two babies. One's an actual infant, and the other is an infant business.
Yep.
Okay.
But I think being a father helps being a better leader at work, and then because I'm a father, I can't work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So I kind of pinned against the wall that I have to delegate things. And then having a good team to follow through with all that really helps.
There's some important stuff right in there, what you just said, because a lot of people are still a parent and still work 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know people that, have done that and wish they hadn't, wish they could go back to when they had little kids and be there more often.
I keep hearing that. So I'm trying not to make that regret.
Yeah. Well, good for you for keeping that a priority. That's the reason why we do what we do, right? To provide for our families. So,
and then, going back to ProShop, it makes it, save an hour or two every day, just repetitive tasks. And then you can work remote very easily. I think that's one of the big things I didn't realize at the time was getting on the GovCloud. I basically have a VPN, without doing any IT work at all, just a network drive. So
that
helps a lot. And the team can do it too. Just take a laptop home, connect to that network drive, and you can access everything on the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Without, and this is the unique part that, I'm still wrapping my head around because I'm not the savviest IT person, but, without having to download your files to each local computer that you are working from, right? Because you can work from the remote drive, which like most ERPs don't, I'm have learned this in the last few years, but most ERPs don't work that way, right? You can upload files, but then you have to literally download them to the local computer that you're working on in order to say program with a CAD model,
Right.
And now you have multiple copies of that file, and that's not real compatible with CMMC.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Right.
It took us a while to get there too. It's we did a lot of things off our local network drive. Then I realized, there's a spot for CAD CAM, a spot for G code, all, from the work order that we all use. So it was a duh moment. Like, let's put everything in the cloud and
sure.
Yeah, you can access it anywhere.
So did we not do a good enough job like training on that feature and like really letting it sink in? Like this is how you can do it?
I don't think that's fair to you because when I was getting trained, I didn't even have a machine shop technically.
Okay.
So I just learned like the bare bone basics.
Right.
Implying that you're going to be a 1-2 man shop for a while. But no, we really scaled with the help of ProShop. We would definitely, be half the size right now if it weren't for ProShop.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mainly for my capacity of, quoting, keeping things organized, all the outside processes. Because you can only keep track of a handful of jobs without an ERP system.
Right.
We'll probably have, 50 outstanding work orders at once. Got to have something to track all that.
Yeah. That's too much to keep in your head for sure. Yeah. I mean, we have a fair number of, 1 and 2 person shops, and sometimes they're like, by the time, we had 10 work orders, we were starting to have things slip through the cracks and miss things and get customers upset with us and, make the wrong rev or, it's just there's so many things that can go wrong. Yeah. So I guess if I had to, if I had to sort of tweak my statement that it's the hardest business in the world, it's certainly the hardest business doing it the old way. I think it's a lot easier if you do it a smarter way.
Yeah. It's there's ways to do things better, but
yeah. So again, before we hit record, I was asking you about different aspects of the system, and you said you're just sort of getting your feet wet with cutting tools. Can you share a little bit about your journey deciding to use that, explain how you're using it, how it works?
Yeah. My attitude is if we have a tool at our disposal, I want to use it. Which ProShop has a lot of tools to use. But the tooling module specifically is pretty overwhelming at first. We're going to look into CSV import. We do have a Mastercam tool library of just standard tools. So on all my free time, we're going to CSV that into ProShop. But for now, we use the equipment module a lot for thread gauges, inspection tools.
Of course.
But for the tooling side, we're just using specialty tools. Special form drills or dovetails, special port tools, things like that. And we can link that to the part number. So,
got it. So if you have a custom tool, you make a unique tool ID and then put it in the sequence detail, the tool list for each part number based on the operation where you need that tool.
Yeah, we don't even use the tool number like at the machine. We just have a list of specialty tools for that job, and that really makes getting the job together easier, and then purchasing for that job. So that's linked to the pricing and the vendors and all that as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you find that it helps you? One thing I've always said about the way that we do that, especially compared to like vending machines. Vending machines are awesome for just making sure you keep a minimum level, but they can't predict spikes in demand. So if you have a big job that maybe is a tough material and you're all of a sudden going to go through a whole bunch of one type of tool, even with a vending machine, you could easily find yourself empty and having to scramble to, get more in right away or put that job on hold or, change tack. Whereas we can predict because we know all the work orders coming up and how many of them use that tool and how many you're expecting to need. And so a week in advance, you can buy a whole bunch of tools. So you make sure you're getting ahead of that and keep your spindles turning.
Yeah, that's what I was forgot to say is we do have a vending machine. That's I think that's kind of the halfway point between tracking all the tools ourselves. We're just lacking the manpower for a tool room right now. But vending machine is great. But like you said, we have production parts that need, 10 end mills for this one job.
Right.
And we only stock like 3, I think. So
sure.
So all the repeat production parts will have, that tool list in there ready to go. Buy all the tools up front.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a huge help.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm not surprised that you say, that it's kind of overwhelming. It's if you have, I don't know how many tools you have in our shop. We probably had, by the time we sold it, we probably had 5,000 plus tools, right?
Yeah.
Each with their own bin location and inventory and vendor and everything and pictures. And yeah, that's a ton of work. You can shave off a bunch of it through that CSV import where you can propagate all the most important attributes, cutting length and diameter and helix and, all those kinds of things. But still, and I suppose you could, and I'm curious. So with exporting the standard library from Mastercam into a spreadsheet first, would you then go ahead and start adding in columns for like vendor and EDP number and lead time and price, and then just import all of that so you don't have to enter those things one at a time?
Yeah, I probably should do that. That's a good point. Get all right. Yeah, thank you.
So it's way easier to do it in a spreadsheet than it is one at a time.
Yeah.
And
maybe
because
get all
the
tools in there first, and then go back and do the same thing with pricing. But
yeah, you can do that incremental update to fill out some fields and leave other fields alone, with the CSV tool. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's helpful. There's some some funny stories even that both funny and hard. But I remember one of our customers, and they were probably 10-person shop, maybe a little less when they got ProShop. And the guy swore up and down. He's like, I don't need that tooling module. That's ridiculous. Why would you need to do that? And then he shared with me that at one point they were, I don't know, shorthanded, or this is about maybe a year later into their implementation. And so he said, they were short staffed. So he went out to kind of help with the setup. And he's like, this is a freaking disaster. It's like,
Yeah.
what tools am I supposed to be using? Where are they? And he's like, then and there, he's like, that's it. We're doing the tooling module and we're going all in. And then
I
all
try
of a
to do that
sudden,
too.
the setups got easier and smoother and faster and
Sure.
less chaos. And anything that contribute to less chaos in a shop is worth doing, because it can be a chaotic place at times.
Yeah, that'll be your next big move, is to was that G code parsing?
Yeah,
we want to get that working. So after we get our tool library in ProShop, we'll import our G code, and then the whole tool list is in ProShop right there as a setup sheet.
Yeah, without having to do much work at all.
And we're just started using all the work instructions for pictures and tribal knowledge for setups.
Okay.
G code's on the drive now, the network drive.
Right.
Because we just started a night shift and a weekend shift.
Are you serious? I was just about to ask.
Yeah.
Wow, you're running 3 shifts now.
Yeah, it wasn't. I've heard horror stories about that too. It's not easy, but we got some good people in place and learned the process really quickly. So, so that's when we started using more of the setup sheets and posting out G code, because not everybody can have access to Mastercam now.
Of course.
So that's been another big learning curve.
Yeah. Did you add both of those shifts at the same time, or did you add a night shift and then a month or two later?
Yeah, more or less the same time.
Wow.
It is a bit easier when you have the right work for it. I mean, if you're running production all week long, it's pretty easy. But no, we got some good setup machinists, nights and weekends, so they can take limited information and make a good part out of it.
Yeah, that's a nice situation to be in. So I have 2 questions around that. One is, having that kind of steady production work is sort of, that's what many shops really want. And, not all of them are able to get that. How did you find yourself in the position where you have that kind of work?
Yeah, we're still fighting for it too. We're still very much a prototype job shop. But we got a couple of good contracts. I think one is a defense job and the other one is in data center industry.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really just be there. Lots of visits, customer relationships. Just kind of be a annoyance to them almost. Just keep building that relationship.
Right.
And I think I just did a newsletter over the holidays to all of our big customers. This is how we did in 2024. Here's some big stats, and then here's our plan for 2025. And I think I stupidly did that to all of my customers.
Okay.
So now all of my customers are contacting me at once.
Okay.
So I would recommend only doing it to your A customers, and then work your way down the list. But
so people were impressed by this newsletter and now wanting to reach out for RFQs, and it's a little too much right now. Like, there's too many RFQs.
For sure. And it's the new year, I guess. All the new budgets are out. But
right, that's a good problem to have, as people say.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting tip. Did you share like your growth statistics or quality, or what did you share in that newsletter?
I did. I kind of went over, we increased floor space, employees, went back and forth on sharing our growth percentage, our revenue percentage growth. But I did tell everybody,
right,
we're growing and we're here to grow with you guys. But I think that's all I told them. Some major milestones we did, new machines coming in.
Right.
And then, just kind of the outlook for 2025, and kind of pretty much tell your customers we have a growth plan. So let us know when you're ready to help us grow. So
that's very wise. Very cool. Yeah. That makes so much sense. And I can see why people would respond well to that, but it's not something I've heard people, shop owners do. That's really cool.
And a lot of it's, I got to chop it up to luck too. I acquired a bunch of customers right off the bat. I'd probably recommend buying over building a machine shop, especially today. Right. There's a lot of shops, selling, closing down. Just buying a book of customers, it could save you 10 years of time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And we've had a number of folks, on the Machine Shop Mastery podcast that have done that very thing. And I'd say pretty much all the stories I've heard from those clients have been really positive,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess the challenge there is trying to matchmake between, the shops, maybe the silver tsunami, the baby boomers that built their shops and have had them and now are ready to retire, and making sure they can get connected with people that want to buy a machine shop. Because not everyone wants to buy a machine shop.
Right.
And maybe that's just the work we're all doing here, is elevating the importance of the industry, and there's significant opportunity here, and the economy needs more shops, and it's a great solid part of being part of that economy, and there's strong demand for years to come. So
yeah, it's hard to me to speak on that, being a owner for 3 years, but seems, I don't know if my eyes just opened or if it's just booming all around us, especially in Austin area. Just so many big players and different industries moving to Austin. I'm kind of curious on people that have been in the game for a while, how much has it grown? How's the outlook looking?
Right.
So it's looking significantly better since when I started in 3 years. So
it's improved over the 3-year period.
Yeah.
From your perspective. Yeah. I mean, I think I hear that from many shops. There are some that aren't feeling that, and I gotta chalk that up to either the industries they're serving, the approach they're taking or not taking to being sales and marketing driven. Maybe some luck here and there, but there's a lot of things within the control of a shop owner to try to make sure they're in a position to thrive. But it doesn't come firsthand nature for anyone really, right? You talked about being a technician, and I'm curious to know if the coaching program you're doing is influenced in any way by the book The E-Myth, which was instrumental. Yeah, there it is. I see it. Was that part of the coaching program? Was it, or is it just similar but unrelated?
Yeah, I feel like my coach is very sales and marketing driven, which I kind of went back and forth with him. So I'm like, I'm a machine shop. We don't need to advertise. We don't need to market. I've kind of changed my views on that now, and it's
interesting.
It's really just changing your mindset on how to run a business and market your business and get more sales. Kind of tracking your numbers. So it's a lot different than what I intended to do. Just being a programmer in my own shop, but trying to learn quickly how to run a business.
Do you feel like ProShop has helped you not just have the tools to do that, but kind of some people call it sort of like a template or a blueprint for how to run a shop effectively with all the tools that we offer?
Yeah, absolutely is. It really does teach you how to run a machine shop specifically. We've been digging into the accounting side and job profitability lately. And that new update is really nice for profitability for each work order. And then you can compare that to your estimate.
Oh, that part. Yeah.
That's nice. And then, I can kind of track monthly points as far as sales, what we shipped, kind of our backlog, when things are due.
Sure. Are you using the sales dashboard for most of that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned earlier running some queries for looking at revenue, but I'm thinking to myself, most of that is right on that sales dashboard. So maybe there's some nuanced ones with segments of customers or whatever that would be a separate report. Well, very cool. Is there? Let me come back to my list of questions. Is there you said you keep discovering tools that you didn't even, or maybe features that you didn't even realize were there. Is there, could you think of a feature or a tool that you just could not or would not live without anymore?
Yeah, I looked at this one. I wrote down all of the features. If that answers your
All
question.
of them.
But
All of
so
them.
starting out, I was using Google Docs, I think, out of my garage just for
Hmm.
trying to look professional, just packing slips and quotes and things.
Got it.
So I found ProShop. It's paperless. It can make work orders and you can clock in and out of it. So I was like, sold. We recently started, like I said, the financial side of things, actually tracking profitability.
Mhm.
Another big one we jumped into is the scheduling side.
Oh,
So
yeah.
right now it's kind of more of a priority list at each machine, but
Got it.
but even our managers can look at the schedule and respond to customers. We're this far out on this job. I can look at it while I'm estimating. We got a month backlog on this machine, so I can help me with lead times.
Yeah.
It's kind of like every employee is an important part of the chain in your company. It's kind of the same thing with every ProShop module. It's you need every step of the process to have good company.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes people, we, as when we sell ProShop, you get every module, right? We don't sell them separate. A lot of ERPs are like, oh, you need to spend more money to get the advanced scheduling package or the advanced planning package or whatever. And we're like, no, you need them all. And
Right.
just for the reason you just said, they're all interrelated. They're kind of like links in a chain. If you don't have one and that breaks, you're missing a huge gap in the functionality of how everything should flow and be interconnected. So we kind of feel like they need to be all there at once, and you don't need to use them. Kind of like you're describing, you're kind of picking them up as you grow and get comfortable and familiar. But ultimately, if you were missing scheduling or missing, advanced planning, there'd be a huge gap missing in, what you need to run your shop effectively. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's just a little bit of our philosophy around that. You've already proactively shared so many things like that you'd be much smaller, because one of my questions is, can you imagine what your shop would look like today if you didn't use ProShop?
Yeah,
you've already
be half the size and probably a lot more stressed. Yeah.
And your wife might not be as happy, and you wouldn't see your kid as often.
Yeah, she would not be happy.
Well, for the sake of your wife and kid, it's I'm glad that you're prioritizing that and helping ProShop as a tool to let you be more present with your family. That's amazing. So in just the bigger picture of your business, maybe it's just sort of the last question here. What would you say is some of the best strategic moves you've made in the history and the growth of your company?
Definitely ProShop would be the first one. Just getting ahead of being organized and kind of starting from the ground up. I guess we've made some pretty big machine purchases lately. It's always nerve-wracking. But every single machine, we're getting a lot of, automation with Akuma going. Every time we've made that purchase, it's overbooked within a month or two.
Right.
So it's kind of just taking that leap, and it seems to be working out. So we're going to keep leaping. So yeah, automation of pallet pools have been very great for us. We can do prototype during the day and production at night and a weekend. So it's been great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge.
And then, starting the night and weekend shift, that's been huge for us. And the addition of a quality manager, full-time quality manager, has been big. So we've been throwing a lot of money in the QA lab. Customers, we sell that aspect the most, I think, with our company, is we have a lot of Keyence equipment. So it's easy to use, checks it quick, makes great reports. And we'll send out pictures here and there, and the customer is always, blown away. And typically within an hour, they'll send another RFQ. So just selling the quality side of things is the way to go, I think.
That's very cool. Yeah, I applaud you on because that in itself is that's a strategic move, right?
Mhm.
To really focus on that, prioritize that, sell that to your customers, and clearly they're responding in a positive way because that resonates with them. So very cool. Um, Anything that I have not? I know there was a lot of questions we didn't cover, but anything that you'd like to make sure we cover before we wrap up today?
I think that kind of does it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just say, I've had a lot of support, and think I've gotten some lucky streaks here and there. So I'm definitely new to the business, and constantly learning. I think that kind of reflects to my team too. Everybody leaves their egos outside. Everybody's open to hear criticism and learn new things. So it's a great team here, and I tell everybody's learning, and so am I. So let's get in there and figure it out. So
Yeah. Well, even just hearing you say that, is there's a lot of wisdom in. I mean, the fact that you talk about being new and inexperienced and humble and learning, and you mentioned earlier that you have great people. You have great people because you attracted them there, right? And you retain them because of the leader that you are. So, good job on all of that. And it's not that way in many shops, as I'm sure you probably know from your own history.
Mhm.
So um, even though if you're representing that as just like new and inexperienced in the business, at the same time there's a lot of maybe wisdom beyond your years that's really helping you succeed there. So and I know that's a takeaway for the listeners as well. So
Mhm.
awesome, Adam. Well, couldn't be more proud of you. Thank you for the trust to be a partner to you on your journey, and thank you for sharing your story here today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, talk to you again soon. Cheers.
Bye.